All right, today I'm going to cover lab safety, right? And you guys are going to have a quiz on this, but don't freak out because when I'm done with this lecture, I'm going to post a quizzes code and you can play it as many times as you want. And the quiz is the same as the quizzes. So I'm going to go over some laboratory safety rules and it's going to seem kind of redundant. So bear with me here, but some basic safety rules use common sense, okay? Don't do any unauthorized experiments unless you ask me. No horse playing around, no pushing, no shoving. When you're back there, you're being safe. Okay, I don't want broken materials. I don't want people to get hurt. You're handling chemicals and glassware with respect. You're wearing your safety goggles or glasses when we're dealing with any harmful chemicals or open flames. You have read and are following all of the instructions. And then finally, safety is an attitude. Okay, so just be safe and be aware of what's going on around you. So some safety features of our lab, we do have a fire blanket located by the cabinet, fire extinguisher right when you enter the lab, an eye wash station in case you should get chemicals in your eye, and then a fume hood for when we do mix some chemicals, they can give off some noxious fumes, so we can use the fume hood to ventilate that area adequately. Now some common safety symbols that you may come across, safety goggles, gloves. When you're heating substances, you'll see like a test tube holder, fire, flame, corrosive substances. So make sure you avoid the skin, eyes, and clothing. Don't inhale or sniff chemicals. Breakage, be aware of that. Explosion, not really going to be messing too much with poison or radiation, but just some common symbols you may stumble across and some more. So when you're working in the science laboratory, you're going to have some very important responsibilities that do not apply to other classrooms. You're going to be handling equipment, working with materials that, if you're not paying attention or you're doing it carelessly or improperly, you could cause injury to yourself or to someone else. So we need to make sure that we are following the rules and that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you violate any of these regulations, I won't hesitate to suspend you from class or actually just kind of permanently remove you from that lab. So some following practices that need to be followed. First off, I have to be present when we do lab work. If any accident occurs, no matter how minor, like you burn yourself, you get a small scratch, you cut yourself, you spill, 1 molar hydrochloric acid on your skin or on your clothing, you need to report that. Prepare for each laboratory activity. I'm going to do my best to give you the lab the day before so you can read through the instructions and kind of get an idea of what you're doing so you're not wasting so much time reading through the procedures. And then obviously follow all the directions. I may make some modifications if we're realizing that some of these procedures are not working the way that they should and we find a better option or we troubleshoot it. Any science project or individually planned experiment has to be approved by me. Use only materials and equipment that's authorized by me or is laid out. Inform me immediately if things are not working the way that they should. And then if you spill any non-hazardous spills, like some water on the floor, clean it up immediately. Now, if you spill some, hydrochloric acid or something, I probably should be the one cleaning that up. All right, goggles are required. Which would you rather read? All right, if you're caught without your goggles when you're handling chemicals or a flame, I'm going to make you sing the goggle song to the whole class. And it's sung to the tune of I'm a Little Teapot. So it goes, I'm a little chemist, short and stout. Here are my goggles, here are my eyes. When I don't wear my goggles, my teacher shouts, put them on or you get out. So hopefully this will help you to remind you that goggles are needed. So wear your goggles, especially when you're doing anything with caustic or corrosive chemicals, the heating of liquids in case it should splash up, or any other activity that could injure the eyes, maybe gases under pressure. Never carry hot equipment or dangerous chemicals through a group of students, just because you could injure or harm them. Check labels and equipment instructions carefully. Make sure you actually have the correct item, and then just be aware if any chemicals are hazardous. Don't taste or touch chemicals with your hands unless I tell you it's safe to do so, especially when you want to detect the odor of chemicals. You want to do it by wafting. Eating or drinking in the lab is not permitted at all, especially from lab equipment. Please, no, no, no. Beakers are not glassware for you to drink out of. When heating material in a test tube, do not look into the tube or point it in the direction of any person during the process. And then finally, never pour substances back into their bottles. Exchange stoppers of bottles or lay stoppers on the table. Just don't, because then things get mixed up and then chemicals can be contaminated. It's really important in lab to not touch your face or your eyes or your clothes when you're handling solutions, specimens, equipment, or materials, just because there could be that residue. So at the end of the lab period, please go wash your hands. If you should happen to splash some acid or alkali solution on you, the best option for you is to just run it immediately underneath water. If it gets into your eye, we do have eye wash stations that, you just put your eyeball in the water for 15 minutes, and please report it to me so I can do a follow-up and we can get that taken care of. So we already know location of eye wash station, fire blanket, fire extinguisher, exits, etc. People with long hair, you might want to confine it, just especially when we're doing open flame, because we don't want your hair to be, to catch on fire. Please wear shoes that cover your toes, just in case you should drop some glassware, at least it's protected, or you drop some chemicals, at least it gets on your shoe and not your toes. Keep your work area clean, and then I know our back lab doesn't really look like a lab due to COVID, and it could be a possible classroom, so please do not use any of the chairs in the back lab. There's no sit-in during lab. It just causes problems. When people sit, then people are not paying attention to their environment around them, and then I actually get more accidents when kids sit instead of standing. When we do use burners, I'll give you a demonstration of how to use a burner. We're not going to do any demonstrations right now just because of COVID and all the chairs and equipment back there. All right, cold and hot glass do look the same, so make sure you always test it with the back of your hand if you're unsure, and don't just go ahead and grab it, because you're going to hurt all of your fingers. If you see broken glassware, please report it. There's nothing more depressing than opening a lab drawer and to see a broken beaker because no one wanted to tell me about it. It's just unsafe, especially with thermometers. Will I be upset? Yeah, probably, but I'll get over it. I'm going to be mad for 5 to 10 minutes and then I'll just get over it, okay? Always be serious and approach lab experiences in a courteous manner. And then clean your lab area. Clean your lab area. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. So some lab equipment that we might be dealing with, especially in biology: graduated cylinders, balance beams. We also have an electronic scale, test tube clamps, tongs for sure. We may use some Bunsen burners, our Erlenmeyer flask, wire gauze, evaporating dish, Bunsen burner, a triple beam balance scale, flask, thermometers for sure, hot plates, and then clamps to attach our apparatus to a ring stand. So here's the Bunsen burner. So we have natural gas flowing through here. We have some air, and then we ignite it with a striker, or produces a spark, and then it gets ignited here. So this is just showing the flame temperature distribution of it. We actually have two different types of Bunsen burners, but we're going to be using, I should say, two types of Bunsen burners. We actually have two burners, a Bunsen burner and then a Merkur burner, but we will be using a Bunsen burner, lower temperatures. All right, that is all I have for you. I know I went through that really fast, but yeah. So we're going to do the quizzes. You can take it as many times as you want. Safety quiz tomorrow.